Brent, I want to ask you first, what is the metaverse?
It's such a good question. We often hear it now because the word is on everybody's lips, on everybody's tongues. We've been hearing it throughout our time, even just in this forum, in this summit. And the metaverse is going to be the next wave of the internet. It's the next wave of social technology. And it's going to have properties that we just don't see today with the technologies that we have. And so right now, when you experience applications, when you experience the internet, it's very much a 2D type of experience. The metaverse is going to be three-dimensional, and that's going to create a profound and different type of effect and different experience. It is going to be interoperable, and beyond that, it's going to create this sense of presence. And so what you lack today when you interact, whether it's on something like Zoom, when you go and you pull up Google or a website, what you lack is that sense of feeling presence, and presence in a space, presence with other people. And that's what the metaverse is about, is actually bringing that feeling to social technology and to the internet. And I'll give you an example on it. I often think back as an example on it to my own family and my own upbringing. And when I was growing up in rural America, my mother, struggled to find a job. And she struggled because what she was trained to do in the small town where we lived was a job that was only on the second or third floor of this one employer on this building. And she was someone who was disabled. She was someone who was in a wheelchair. And even though she was qualified, even though they said they wanted to hire her, she wasn't actually able to do the work. And what is so powerful about actually bringing a sense of presence is that it will break down physical barriers that exist today. And so what I'm hopeful on, part of the reason that I do this work, is I think about people like my mother and the ability for them to actually access and be with colleagues and have employment and jobs that they can't have now. And if you can experience that, you're going to find that barriers break down. If you're a programmer in Dubai, you'll be able to work alongside people wherever they are. If you're a small business in Dubai, you'll have the opportunity to actually access markets that simply aren't there today.
I want to come back to the point about accessing markets and also the economies behind the metaverse. But first, I want to pull on this idea of the presence, because for a lot of people, when they hear about the metaverse or they're trying to learn about it, it feels much more about experiences like entertainment experiences we've heard about. There's gaming. So you see it as wider, as more greater elements of life, including work and education and living.
It's so much more than gaming. And so today, the technologies are really used very much for entertainment and for gaming. That's a pathway we've seen before with other technologies.
Right.
The internet in the beginning was very much more about gaming, more about entertainment experiences. The same thing was true of mobile. We saw that that was driven more by gaming. And those are pathways that then enable broader usage, and they develop the technologies. And even now with our own products, we are beginning to see that the dominant use case is social. And so when you begin to bring people together, they want to connect and they want to actually have social applications for it. And what we anticipate on this is that a lot of the ultimate use cases will be social ones, and they will be business and workplace-based ones.
And this brings us to the business conversation, because we've seen numbers in the billions of how much investment is going in, including Meta's grand investments into the metaverse, but also that advertisers are beginning to talk about hundreds of billions worth of opportunity in terms of both advertising and the market size, metaverse. So if we could talk about how this will impact economies, but also bring overall value, more than what we have in the physical world.
Yeah, so the metaverse opens the prospects of a new economy. And that new economy is going to have property rights. And we're beginning to see, I think, a real intersection of Web3 and crypto with the metaverse. And I don't think we've fully processed actually that protocols like Ethereum actually offer the ability to have property and do contracts in a way that today much of the internet is owned by large corporations. And that is not what the metaverse is going to be about. It's actually going to give small businesses, individuals, the ability to be paid, the ability to own things, bring those things with them into different kind of parts of the metaverse and different ecosystems. And the world is also in a different place than it was when the internet first went to scale.
Right.
And so I'm hopeful that it will also be much more global first than the development we've seen to date.
So of course there are skeptics and there are people concerned about the metaverse, and you're VP of governance for governance. So that's an important point, the governance element. And also how can we trust that Meta will build the metaverse in a way that's positive for society? So how do you respond to the skeptics?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And it's one where Meta is not the only player building the metaverse. So we are building it alongside other players in industry. You're seeing that we are building with Microsoft. We're building with, and we're going to start to see what Apple is going to do in the metaverse. You're seeing the wide array of activity in Web3 that's going to come into the metaverse. And so Meta is one part of the metaverse that's going to be built. And through that, from a governance side, we're building with industry partners. We're setting standards. We founded an XR association to begin to figure out what the standard should be across multiple platforms. So what I think you're going to find is this isn't like a single application. This is much more like a new era of telecommunications that will be built with multiple partners together.
So could you give us an example of, you're saying, as you said, this is still being built and there are considerations to be had when it comes to governance. Could you give us an example of some of the things you're thinking about?
Tell me more. Sorry, I'm not.
So more of what you said about building with partners and how you'll the governance side of the metaverse. What are some of the questions that come into your mind when you think about, okay, this is what we should be thinking about. This is what should be thinking about at the design phase, so to speak.
Yeah. So there are great questions in how to build the metaverse. So some of them have to do with questions about privacy and safety. How do we guarantee people's safety? How do we ensure that privacy is front and center in how the metaverse is built? There are questions about expression and communication. There are questions about access. And so there are trade-offs relative to premium services versus allowing as many people as possible to participate. For Meta, we have always held that our products should be as broadly accessible as possible. We have sought to make our services free. We have sought to build with our Reality Labs products that are much more affordable than what other similar products might be. And those are some of the questions I think that are going to be at the core of how you govern the metaverse, how you build it. And I'm really excited also for decentralized governance. And so for opportunities to hand power over to a wider array of people and to enable more localized forms of governance than some of the more centralized types of governance we've seen so far.
Okay, so that takes me to the point about what policies do you think should be adopted to make sure that the metaverse can be a net positive for society?
Yeah, so one that's broader is really about access. And so it is vital that people have the ability to access the internet, access these types of services, and be in a position where they can participate. So that's a crucial part of what the policy should be and enabling people to be on a pathway into the metaverse. Others have to do with the way that the services themselves operate and ensuring, again, that safety is front and center, that privacy is front and center, and that people are in a position where when they join and they're a part of it, they feel comfortable doing so. So those are some of the things we're focused on. And I'll also add that as we've built, one of the things I think we've learned from our apps as they've gone to scale is thinking through how do we build in a way that collaboration is front and center so that there's partnerships and we build with others and that there are no surprises. And so a core value that we have been putting into the work as we build the metaverse is that we don't want people to be surprised. It's part of the reason now that we have actually talked about this front and center in advance of some of the technologies being more widely available, because we'd like to hear from more people. We'd like to set expectations about them. We'd like to hear from the types of people who are around this room on what needs to get right before these applications, before these products are at scale.
I mean, the education part is so important because I think, again, and this is why I started my first question to you about what is the metaverse, because I think that change and a realm that people are not familiar with can be scary, and that's why the education part. So, how should people educate themselves about this? What should they know about it? If you have children and you don't know if they're going to the metaverse, what's happening there, what would your advice be?
Yeah. So one of the best ways to learn about it is actually to experience it. And so today there are different ways that you can take part in the metaverse through our products, through other people's products. But I'd really encourage trying out immersive experiences because they are different than the types of experiences you can see today. And we're also beginning to make investments as a company. So we have committed $150 million to immersive learning. We've committed $50 million to an education fund. And our hope on this is that that begins to provide resources through NGOs, through governments, and through other partners that will enable people to learn about this, educate parents, so that people are in a position to really participate in this.
And then, some people get concerned that inequalities that already exist in the physical world will get compounded or exacerbated in the metaverse. How can you work towards trying to reduce those inequalities? Especially, again, the big companies that are the early movers in here will be able to determine a lot of how this is going to turn out. For those who come in later, smaller companies, or just ordinary people, they might feel that they're being left behind.
Yeah, so this is one where I'm really excited about some of the foundational elements of the metaverse, in part because there will be different types of property rights. There will be ways for creators and individuals to be rewarded. Small businesses will be able to participate in ways that I think are actually harder in today's existing products. And so I think we'll actually see the opportunity for a more level playing field in how people can participate, how people can gain the economic benefit and the advantage of the metaverse. And I'm really hopeful that the Middle East, with its youth and its vibrant small business economy, is going to be in a position to actually really lead the way and build out worlds, whether that's in Horizon, whether that's in different aspects and different parts of the metaverse that get built.
Well, we had the announcement yesterday from Dubai saying that they were going quite big on the metaverse and working towards having, part of Dubai recreated there. So that would be exciting for, I think, a lot of people to try to get their heads around, but also to experience. I have a final question for you as we're wrapping up. The role of governments. So, governments are thinking about this and seeing how they would be involved. What would be we're at the World Government Summit, so what's the advice to governments who, perhaps not like the government of Dubai or the UAE, who are getting quite involved in here? What would be the advice to governments, how they should be approaching this?
So it's really important now, I think, to take some of the types of steps that we have seen today, which is actually beginning to meet with and partner with the different companies to understand the technologies, to begin to think through what the policy side should be and what is in the best interest of particular different countries and different societies in order to participate.
Right.
And vitally, I really do think a big part of it is going to be empowering creators, empowering businesses to start to participate, because the more inclusive we can be in who is a part of building these different worlds and building the metaverse, the more likely it's actually going to bend in the best directions for any given part of the world.
So I had said that was the last question. I'm going to cheat and do one more very quickly, because your answers are nice and brief. So one more question for you. On a personal level, what do you most enjoy about the metaverse? On a personal level, this is a personal question.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I actually love right now is, and it's kind of the beginning days, I think, of the metaverse, is actually fitness. And so you can try apps like Supernatural, and you can do boxing, you can do meditation, and so as I shared, I'm from a rural part of America. You can actually go and you can meditate in in beautiful places that are wholly inaccessible from your home. And that's something that I think is just going to be incredibly powerful.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your answers.